The NHL Trade Deadline is one of the biggest dates during the NHL season due to the influx of potential moves that could be made. Stanley Cup contenders look to improve their teams for a deep playoff run, while the bottom of the barrel teams look to send off any assets they may have to prepare for the future. While some trades aren't as blockbuster as those that have happened during the offseason and at the draft, some crazy deals went through that have entirely changed the complexion of an NHL roster throughout its history. Whether you consider them greatest or worst, here are 10 of the greatest NHL trade deadline deals that have happened in the past. On March 5th, 2014, the Los Angeles Kings acquired forward Marian Hossa from the Columbus Blue Jackets in exchange for forward Matt Fratton, a 2015 second-round pick, and a conditional third. Gearing up for another potential Stanley Cup run, the LA Kings made a deal with the Columbus Blue Jackets to bring in Marian Hossa. Although Hossa was struggling much of that season with Columbus, the Kings were hoping that the 40-goal scorer of old would emerge once again and help the Kings down the stretch. And boy, were they ever right. Hossa would lead all players during the 2014 playoffs with 14 goals along with 8 assists for 22 points in 26 games, helping the LA Kings win their second Stanley Cup in 3 seasons. As for the return, Columbus did nothing with Matt Fratton as he was moved to Toronto after only playing 4 games for them, and the draft picks that eventually became Dominic Turgeon and Travis Dermott were moved in other deals during draft days. On April 3rd, 2013, the Nashville Predators acquired forward Filip Forsberg from the Washington Capitals in exchange for forwards Martin Erat and Michael Latta. This trade was one of the many downfalls that led general manager George McPhee to lose his job with the Capitals. The Caps moved former 11th overall pick Filip Forsberg to Nashville in order to acquire Erat, who was having a decent season with Nashville, putting up 21 points in 36 games during the lockout-shortened season, as well as forward Michael Latta. Erat's point production and performance took a serious hit in Washington, and he basically acquired bust status. Erat would not put up any points in the 4 games he played in the postseason, and a wrist injury shut him down for the rest of the series, where Washington lost to the New York Rangers in 7 games. The same goes for the following season, as his production wasn't up to the Caps standards, and he was moved to Arizona during the 2014 deadline. And let's not forget Michael Latta in the deal, who was barely able to crack the Caps team in a bottom 6 role. He only put up 17 points in over 100 NHL games before becoming a perennial AHLer for multiple teams. Filip Forsberg, on the other hand, well, he became one of the franchise forwards for the Nashville Predators. From 2014 to today, the 24-year-old has had 4 straight seasons of 25 or more goals and has helped the Predators to become one of the more dominant teams in the Western Conference. On March 20th, 1996, the Vancouver Canucks acquired forward Marcus Naslund from the Pittsburgh Penguins in exchange for forward Alex Zozhanov. Most people will remember this deadline deal as one of the most lopsided trades in NHL history. Rarely do you ever see 2 former first-round picks being traded for each other, but very rarely do you ever see those players coming from the same draft year. The Penguins and Canucks were both playoff-bound in 1996 and decided to swap skill for size. The Penguins got Alex Zozhanov, the 7th overall pick in 1991, and they unfortunately got the short end of the stick. 1 point in 10 games for the rest of the regular season, 0 points in 9 playoff games. The Vancouver Canucks got back Marcus Naslund. Naslund would spend a total of 12 years as a part of the Canucks organization and became the franchise's all-time leading scorer with 725 points, including a 104-point season with 48 goals in 2002-2003. On February 26, 2008, the Pittsburgh Penguins acquired forwards Pascal Dupuis and Marian Hossa from the Atlanta Thrashers in exchange for forwards Colby Armstrong, Eric Christensen, Angelo Esposito, and the Penguins' first-round pick in 2008. The young and up-and-coming Pittsburgh Penguins, led by Sidney Crosby, Evgeny Malkin, and Marc-Andre Fleury, were looking to improve their previous playoff appearance, which ended in the first round. The Penguins went out and traded for one of the more touted deadline pickups in 2008, Marian Hossa from the Atlanta Thrashers. At the time, it seemed like they have given up a lot for Hossa and Dupuis, but both had delivered significant totals in their Stanley Cup final run. Hossa had a team-leading 12 goals and 14 assists for 26 points in 20 games, while Dupuis contributed 7 in 20. Ironically enough, Dupuis would be the one to win the cup with Pittsburgh, while Hossa left the team to sign with the team that beat them in the finals, Detroit, whom would then lose to Pittsburgh in a finals rematch in 2009. The Thrashers unfortunately did not get any sort of value back with the assets from this trade. Nothing really ever became of Colby Armstrong, Eric Christensen never broke 20 points with Atlanta, and Esposito and that first round draft choice never played an NHL game. On March 24th, 1998, the San Jose Sharks traded Andrei Nazarov and their draft pick rights to the Tampa Bay Lightning for Brian Marchment, David Shaw, and their first round pick in 1998. The Tampa Bay Lightning were looking to sell off assets at the 1998 trade deadline as they were on pace to be the worst team in the league that season. General manager Phil Esposito dealt Marchment and Shaw to the Sharks and got back Andrei Nazarov. However, the other part of this deal was that Tampa would get the rights to swap first round picks with San Jose if they so choose. The San Jose Sharks had the rights to the Florida Panthers first round pick as a result of the Victor Kozlov trade, and actually ended up getting the first overall pick in that draft because Florida, being the second worst team that season, won the draft lottery. Tampa decided to enact that part of the trade so they would be able to select first overall. Who did they pick, you might ask? A guy named Vincent Lecavalier. On March 6, 2000, the Colorado Avalanche acquired Ray Bourque and Dave Andreychuk from the Boston Bruins for Brian Rolston, Martin Grenier, Sammy Paulson, and a first-round pick at the 2000 NHL Draft. Almost every hockey fan knows of this historic trade deadline deal between the Colorado Avalanche and the Boston Bruins. Bourque was arguably the best defenseman in the league during this time. 5 Norris, a Calder, and a King Clancy trophy to back him up. Although he was getting up there in age, the one prize he was still missing was a Stanley Cup. So the struggling Boston Bruins had sent a 39-year-old Ray Bourque and Dave Andreychuk to the soon-to-be powerhouse once again of the West, the Colorado Avalanche. The Avs would unfortunately fall in the playoffs in Game 7 to the Dallas Stars, but Bourque would return for one final year with probably one of the greatest Avalanche teams ever to have been assembled. A 40-year-old Ray Bourque had 59 points that season, 10 points in the playoffs in 21 games, and logged an insane average time on the ice of 28 minutes and 32 seconds through those playoff games. The Avs would win the Cup that season, and Bourque's dream of finally winning the Cup were achieved, as he called it a career then and there. Boston obviously received a decent amount of assets in this deal, but Bourque's mission to claim the Cup overshadowed all. On March 10th, 1980, the Los Angeles Kings traded Butch Goring to the New York Islanders for Billy Harris and Dave Lewis. As we all know, the New York Islanders of the 1980s became one of the best NHL dynasty teams that were ever to have been seen out on the ice. One of the moves that was made in order to solidify this soon-to-be dynasty was the Islanders trading for Goring from the LA Kings. Goring in his early years was bouncing back and forth between the AHL and NHL, but soon found his game and became a great all-around two-way forward. This was a trade that benefited both teams, as Billy Harris put up another 45-plus point season in LA the following year, and Dave Lewis became a solid stay-at-home defenseman. As for the Islanders, well, their dynasty had started as they went on to win 4 straight Stanley Cups, with Goring putting up double digits for points in every playoff run excluding the 83-84 season. On March 4th, 1991, the Hartford Whalers traded Ron Francis, Ulf Samuelsson, and Grant Jennings to the Pittsburgh Penguins for Jeff Parker, John Cullen, and Zarli Zalapski. The Penguins made a big splash in 1991 when they acquired the Whalers' all-time leader in virtually every offensive category, Ron Francis, and big physical defenseman Ulf Samuelsson for their playoff run. Francis was a veteran leader and would play second-line center behind Mario Lemieux, while Ulf was a nasty force for them on D. 2 things that Pittsburgh desperately needed and were the perfect combination for each other. One would shut down the other team with his great two-way play, and the other would zone in on the other team's best offensive players and would make their nights into a living nightmare. The Penguins would go on to win 2 straight Stanley Cups, while the Whalers received 2 young players in their prime who played very well for the team and helped them make the playoffs as well. If it wasn't for the Penguins winning those 2 cups, this trade may be considered the only one on this list as an even split. On March 19th, 2002, the Dallas Stars traded Joe Nieuwendyk and Jamie Langenbrunner to the New Jersey Devils for Jason Arnott, Randy McKay, and a first-round pick. Devils general manager Lou Lamoriello felt that the Devils' A-line, which consisted of Patrick Elias, Jason Arnott, and Peter Sikora, weren't getting the job done when it came to goal scoring during the 2002 season. The team was too one-dimensional. So he decided to shake things up a bit by sending Arnott to Dallas, who were also struggling trying to hold on to a playoff spot, with Randy McKay in a first, for Jamie Langenbrunner and Joe Nieuwendyk. Nieuwendyk at age 35 helped provide the Devils with another veteran presence behind Scott Stevens, while the young 26-year-old Jamie Langenbrunner gave them more speed and scoring ability. The Devils would fall short in the playoffs during the season, but would go on to win the cup with both Nieuwendyk and Langenbrunner, who had 4 game-winning goals and led the team in points during this playoff run, still on the team. As for Dallas, Randy McKay only played the rest of that season in Dallas. The first-round pick was moved eventually to Buffalo to draft Danny Paille, but Jason Arnott had very respectable numbers in Dallas as he helped them reach the playoffs 3 out of the 4 seasons he was there. On March 7th, 1988, the Calgary Flames traded Brett Hull and Steve Bozek to the St. Louis Blues for Rob Ramage and Rick Wamsley. During the 1988 season, the Calgary Flames were trying to keep up with the red-hot Edmonton Oilers as the Battle of Alberta was only getting more intense. The Flames needed to get more talent on the team if there was any chance to beat Gretzky's Oilers, but they may have jumped the gun and given too much away in this deal that saw them trade Brett Hull and Steve Bozek to St. Louis for Rob Ramage and Rick Wamsley. Falling short in the semifinals to the eventual champion Oilers, the Flames would go on to win the cup the following year, but was the trade worth it? Probably not. Hull scored 714 goals, 527 of them with St. Louis, and 1,340 points in his remaining 1,212 games, while Steve Bozek enjoyed another 54 goals and 108 points in his 256 games. In return, Wamsley only played 1 period with the Calgary Flames and allowed 2 goals and 10 shots. On the other hand, Rob Ramage had 12 points in the playoffs the year the Flames won the cup, second behind Conn Smythe winner Al MacInnis. Calgary won a cup, yeah, but at the cost of the 4th overall leader in NHL history for goals. So as you guys can see, there have been plenty of crazy deals that have gone down at the trade deadline in NHL history, and hopefully we get some crazy ones that go down this year and many years to come. So let me know what you guys thought of this list. Was there a favorite that you had on my list? Or was there a trade that I did not mention that you think should have been included in this as well? Obviously, there are plenty of trades that I excluded, so if you guys want a part 2 sometime, be sure to let me know down below. Other than that, thank you guys for watching. If you did enjoy, make sure to leave a like, comment, subscribe if you're brand new to the channel. Other than that, I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.